got, I guess, about an hour until it's pitch black. I don't know what to do. Woo! At the 11th hour! It's gotta be for sure minus 20 right now.
I'm Jim Baird, and back in 2017, I won Season 4 of Alone on History Channel. But the truth is, survival doesn't stop when the cameras do. On my remote expeditions, especially in the winter, things have the potential to go bad fast. I often travel by snowmobile, covering long distances, far from roads, far from help, and snowmobiles can break down. If that was to happen, and if your communication device fails, or if conditions are too extreme, help can be days away.
Well, there could be worse places to break down. At least I'm not in the middle of the lake, and I have a survival kit on me. First thing I'm gonna do though is get a fire going and get a shelter built.
With the wind howling across the lake, I headed back into the bush, searching for shelter. Somewhere flat, protected, and out of the wind is what I was looking for. As the light drained from the sky, I finally found a spot. And with very little time left, I had my work to do.
So I'm just gonna do a knot here called the Canadian jam knot. Tie one knot at the top, then one knot there. Then you bring the other end through and you put it through this loose knot. And when you pull tight, it cinches up together and makes it very, very strong.
Even though this was planned, I was still a little nervous. I knew I didn't have much light left. I grabbed the small survival kit I brought. Snare wire, paracord, a ferro rod, fishing line, and a couple of lures pretty much rounded it out. I had one small pot, a sleeping bag, basic cutting tools, and 2 cups of bannock mix as an emergency ration. With limited time and energy, I decided my effort was better spent building a thick bough bed to insulate me from the frozen ground rather than worrying too much about fully roofing the shelter.
Well, this is where I'm sleeping for several nights. Pretty good though. I'm glad I did the extra work to build up that bed. I have like a thin foam ground pad, but it's not enough even close, so the higher you can get yourself off the ground, the better. That's pretty good. But I have to add on to the shelter tomorrow. It's supposed to go down to minus 30. So tomorrow I'm gonna need to do a few more things, including cut a lot of firewood. But I'm gonna go back to my snowmobile and bring over the rest of my stuff. Get a fire going, get warm. That's my clothes, sleeping bag, ground pad. I did bring a sleeping bag and some extra clothes. If this was like, if my Ski-Doo had actually broken down, I might not have a spare pair of clothes, and my base layers are wet, so I'd have to dry myself out over the fire for a long time in order not to have hypothermia. But this is basically what I have here to survive off of, is that kit.
I chose a remote lake in the Temagami region, far enough that I couldn't just bail out to a cabin or truck if things got uncomfortable. So I wanted to challenge myself, not just to practice survival skills, but to see how I'd actually respond if everything went wrong.
Good amount of snow here. Packed it all down with my snowshoes really nicely. fun little luxury here. Is a thermos with some hot coffee. Won't be hot tomorrow, but maybe I'll have like a cup I can reheat. Well, now I have to do something that does not bring me joy out here in the cold, and that is swap out my base layer. I'm not going to swap out my feet base layer, or my legs, but if you have an extra base layer, better have 3 for backup, and you have a good axe and saw and a way to make a fire, you can go and sweat right through, and just as long as you can switch your base layer and spend a couple hours drying your clothes around the fire every night, you'll be good to go. So people saying don't sweat in winter, it's true, but it's more like if you're in the Arctic and you sweat, you die because you can't make a fire. Chilly willy. Nice dry base layer. This will help me sleep so much warmer. That's on. Oh, I just knocked like 1,000 pounds of snow off my hat into the inside of my new dry base layer. Blew it. Those are my Columbia Labyrinth Loop hooded jacket, and I really like to layer up when I'm doing this. So I have a puffer, I have this jacket, I have a down vest, and I have my anorak, and under that I have a sweater and a base layer. So that's good to like -40, but you feel a bit like the Michelin Man. So when I'm moving around, I just wear my anorak and like a sweater under, and when it gets to be this time of night, I start layering up again a bit more, because the temperature is really dropping right now. So I might actually just sleep in this, I'm not sure. One of the things I'm always amazed with when I do these things is how dehydrated I get. I can already feel my feet getting kind of spasmy. Well, hopefully the wind doesn't pick up. If it does, it'll blow all the heat out of my sleeping bag. And I'm gonna get very cold because this shelter doesn't have any way to block the wind. And anything you can do to block the wind makes a huge difference. But if it doesn't stay windy, if it doesn't get windy, I think I'll be okay. I got a decent thickness of boughs here. I don't have an inflatable ground pad, but I mean, who's carrying one of those around with them all the time? So hopefully I'll be okay and that cold doesn't get up from the ground. But I think so far so good. I'm not feeling particularly hungry. And yeah, tomorrow I'm going to get up. I'll probably make some tea or something over the fire and get out there on the lake and try to catch a fish. And then after that, I'm going to look for rabbit sign. So I have today was more of a setup day, and then a couple more full days. So I might want to add on to my shelter as well, and just kind of beef it up. Maybe put a heat reflecting wall and a couple other things. So we'll see. It's got to be oh geez, for sure -20 right now. It snowed quite a bit last night. I had a pretty warm sleep. I just let the fire die out, and my lean-to definitely blocked some of the snow, which is good, because if that snow fell on my sleeping bag, my body heat would have warmed up that snow and it would have melted while I was sleeping. But my head wasn't really under it, so I definitely got some snow on my jacket here and on my head and stuff, but I think I'm okay. I might just head out there and try to fish this morning without like lighting the fire or anything. Just get some warmer clothes on and go out and see if I can catch a fish.
Without an auger, getting through the ice was going to be tough, but I had a trick up my sleeve. I cut a stout pole, sharpened one end, and carved a deep groove into the butt. I then wedged my fixed blade knife into the groove and lashed it tightly with paracord.
I chose a knife that has a very narrow handle. I slid the handle into the groove and lashed it shut. And that is how I'm hoping to get through the ice here today to catch a fish.
I chose a spot I figured would be around 30 feet deep, which is a good depth for ice fishing lake trout. The chisel worked better than I expected. It was still hard work though, but thanks to the deep insulating layer of snow, the ice wasn't as thick as I thought it would be.
This is what I have to fish with here. So tube jig, it's got a weighted hook in it, jig head, a small spoon, and a large spoon. All I have is this stick and this line here. This is Berkeley Traleen 20-pound fluorocarbon. I do know that there's lake trout in this lake and they probably get up to as big as 10 pounds. So I decided to bring something a little bigger.
I tied on a lure and dropped my line. I was happy to see it was the right depth range for lake trout, and relieved I didn't need to chip another hole.
Well, we got a pretty heavy snow falling right now.
The weather couldn't make up its mind. Sun, clouds, snow, wind, calm, then sun again. Rapidly changing barometric pressure isn't ideal for fishing, but quitting wasn't an option either. Eventually, I moved further up the lake near the base of a narrows where I suspected there might be some current. After chiseling through the ice again, I fished for hours.
Yeah, it's just after noon right now. Morning bite window is over. I don't know what the weather's gonna do. It looks like some pretty scary looking weather moving in here, but we have sun over here, so I don't know, we might get some heavy snow. Tough to say, but I should probably cut my losses here with fishing and head back to the shelter, maybe eat some of the food I did bring and go look for rabbit sign, come back and fish in the evening. I'll give it another 15-20 here though. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh. Yeah! Woo! At the 11th hour. Woo! Oh man, and my hook just came out of it too. Yes. Woo! Well, I am glad I never gave up. That's pretty close to calling it quits. That's pretty good. I chiseled through the ice with a pole with a knife on it and just caught this with what I could find in my survival kit. That is a good amount of food. That's probably, geez, probably at least 3 pounds. coffee left. Oh yeah, look at that. So I decided that I'm gonna eat my lake trout now, give myself a little bit more energy. I haven't eaten anything since, you know, before I even started riding out to this general area yesterday on my sled. So I've been, you know, I've gone, geez, let's see, probably about 34 hours without a bite to eat. The only way to cook a fish like this is to boil it. So I don't have any seasoning, and believe it or not, when you're this hungry, it doesn't taste bad. Just boiled fish stew, and you don't lose any of the nutrients. So that's how I'm gonna cook this thing. I'm basically just gonna cut it up and boil it in chunks and just eat those chunks and drink all the water. After this, it'll be cedar tea, which is delicious, and it's loaded full of vitamin C. So that's how you can prevent getting scurvy, is by making tea out of cedar needles. Ted and I drank a lot of that every day on alone. And I'll cook the head and everything. The head will all fall apart, and I'll eat the brains and the cheek, and it'll add nutrients to the broth as well. A lot of fat in the water actually, which is great. Look at that. Freaking delicious. It's really good. Eat all the skin. Look at this, huge chunks of meat coming right off it. When I was on alone, I found a taste for like fish brains and stuff. Let's try this broth. Fishy.
I saved a little trout for later, strapped on my snowshoes, and headed into the bush with snare wire in hand, hoping to find some rabbit sign. The winter woods were beautiful, and I covered a lot of ground in a wide loop.
These big holes in this big old dead tree were actually originally pecked a very long time ago by pileated woodpeckers, and the inside of that hole rots out as the tree dies, and they eventually become nesting spots for birds like wood ducks and screech owls and other things too. Well, I just found what would have been a good place to put my shelter. This is the kind of thing I was looking for. I was looking for a spot to put my shelter. A big rock like this, and I could have leaned sticks right up on that and covered it in boughs and had a door over here and had a much more sheltered enclosed spot. But beautiful walk through the woods. Only thing is there's no rabbit sign anywhere. Sometimes when clumps of snow fall off the tree and lands on the ground, it can look like rabbit prints, but it's not. So I'm looking for like some established trails, and unfortunately I've already walked really far. Good thing about the winter is that you can just follow your footprints back as long as they don't get blown over or snowed over. But in the bush like this, it's not an issue. But there's a bay that's part of the lake where my shelter is back here, and a couple small tributaries coming into that. I don't see any marshes or anything marked on a map, because, you know, marshy areas in winter are areas where you're going to find a lot of cover where you're likely to see rabbits, but nothing like that. But I feel like around where those tributaries are coming in, there might be some good rabbit habitat, and maybe this back bay will be decent too. So I don't know if this really makes sense. Like, you know, you know, it's good to have snares out because they're working for you when you're not. Whereas fishing, I need to sit there and actively jig. But in this area, there's a food source that takes relatively small amount of energy right off my campsite. So I don't know if really walking this far to look for rabbit signs makes sense. But I've made it this far and I'm going to continue going for it. You never know, it might be just around the next corner. We got something here. They're old, but they look like rabbit prints. Well, this is the best lead I have yet. The bay's right there, I can see it. I kind of wanted to bust out into the opening there and see the beautiful sunset, but looks like we have some rabbit prints here. So I think the best bet right now is to follow them. They're definitely old though. Okay, well, I'm picking up some more prints here. I can't tell what these are, but this is almost getting to be a trail here. I see some up there. I saw some prints, but it turned out to be marten. Anyways, maybe I should head back, call this a bust. I really wanted to try snaring some rabbits out here, man, but I guess that's how she goes. Well, I'm on my way back to camp. Don't have much light left. Trying to decide what's harder, the lake or the bush. There's actually more snow on the lake than in the bush, but it's flatter. So I'm just gonna follow the lake and do a big loop. It's just kind of cool, and keep my eye out for any tracks on the bank as I go. But yeah, a bit of a bust. We'll see if we can come up with something. Got a little bit more time, I might as well jig. Looks like there's actually a hole here from somebody else ice fishing that I could kind of kick the snow off of and chisel through, and it might not be as bad. And you know, if somebody else is fishing there, maybe they know what they're doing and it's a good spot. Just been drinking straight lake water, just from the ice hole. It's out a ways. It's a winter. Highly doubt I'm gonna get giardia. All this Skandic powder mix in here. So this is basically baking powder, a little salt, and flour. We'll call it a good golden brown. I just finished cooking the bannock. I went to get up just to throw some more wood on the fire, and I had a crazy bad leg spasm. I just got some cedar tea on the fire. I'm gonna drink all that and just basically try to hydrate myself before going to bed, because those spasms, oh my god, you're writhing in pain, like screaming in pain, and I just have to like try to meditate for it to pass, which is not easy. I'll try to drink all of this cedar tea before bed. Hopefully I don't piss the bed though. Wouldn't that be bad? Can you imagine? I wake up, I'm like, oh no, I drank too much cedar tea. That would probably be the end of me out here. I'd probably freeze to death. Well, I think I'm gonna call it a night though. Finish up the cedar tea and fall asleep. Hopefully it doesn't dump snow on me. Looks like a very clear night with stable weather, so I don't know if a serious winter storm would be that wonderful for me out here in the shelter, but it looks like I might get lucky with that. Snowed last night quite a bit. Looks cold out there. I woke up to snow dumping on my face, so I tucked deeper into my shelter, and yeah, fortunately the bow roof I put on yesterday made all the difference, and I'm not covered in snow. I'm quite protected, so that's good. I probably should have gotten up a while ago, but I've just lied here all snuggly like. And I was all about going out and looking for rabbit sign, but I think I might just go and jig. I mean, reality, that's probably the most accessible food source, so maybe try for rabbits a little later in the day. But yeah, the hardest part of the day is upon me, getting out of here and changing my clothes in the cold. It's very, very cold out, so I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna get it over with. Okay, here we go. Back to these two suckers. I got the white tube jig and I got the spoon. It's on sticks. This is the one I caught, the one on yesterday, so I think I'm gonna keep going with that. So I'm gonna head out there, see if I can catch them. Well, here's the hole I chiseled yesterday. I can see that the crows and ravens were all over the place here, just eating up the little bits of guts and stuff. They would have flown over and seen the little bit of blood on the snow. Wow, must have been cold last night. Oh man, it's gotta be below -20 out this morning. Like, easily. I was feeling the cold coming through my sleeping bag. And my hands had just been freezing all morning. Drinking right from the source. I think I'm gonna put my other line in just over there. No, nothing's gonna be jigging it, but this spoon might attract something into the area.
Walking over to an old Ski-Doo trail, I found some old ice fishing holes that had frozen over. I decided to chisel here because I knew the ice would be thinner and easier for me to get through.
I set this one like this, If I see it down, that means there's a fish on there. But if it goes down, it can't get pulled through the ice because the other side of the ice hole will stop it. As long as the line doesn't snap, you're good. I'm gonna try out a ways deeper, probably like 50 feet out here. The one I caught yesterday was, 25, maybe 30, less than 30, I'd say. So we're gonna go deep now. That took a lot of energy. Food is gas in the tank. When you have no food, you can't travel, you can't do things. When you have food, you can strap the snowshoes on, check what's around the next bend, see if there's any other resources there. And it's like that all the time, really. Food is our fuel, but man, is it ever magnified when you're in a survival situation. Well, I've been out here for 3 hours and 15 minutes. Have not even gotten a bite. Oh, I'm so hungry. It's not a nice feeling. Well, I think that just about does it for me here. Maybe I'll come back and try a little later, but pretty discouraging. Home sweet home. You read the survival books and it's like, here's how to snare rabbits, and great, but so you think you're going to do that, but then you get out here and there's not one rabbit print within a vast distance of where you're stuck, and the more you walk to try to look for sign, the more energy you burn. So it's really up in the air what's the best thing to do a lot of the time. And, I was hoping that I'd be snaring some rabbits. I thought maybe I'd do that even more than catch fish potentially, but there's literally nothing around here. I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have spent my energy this morning looking for more rabbit sign, walking the other way. But I thought, well, at least I know there's fish there. And, hindsight is 20/20. I didn't catch anything. It probably was the smart call, though. This is a fairly realistic sort of broken down in the middle of nowhere scenario. Really what I would do, I'd maybe have to spend one night in the bush and then I'd probably walk out unless I was so far that there was no point. But if you're so far away that there's no point, you got to do this and wait for someone to get you. Nowadays, having some sort of satellite communication device, even a radio or whatever, it's definitely the way to go. Well, hopefully this gives me the energy to cut wood, because that's important. The butt of my axe handle is a much bigger knob. That's because look how icy my gloves are. They're hardly any grip. They're all icy from when I was fishing. And that handle is just extra safety so the axe doesn't whip out of your hand. Hello, cedar tree. Do you mind if I take a couple of your needles to make a sweet, delicious vitamin C rich tea? Oh, they're leaves? They're not needles? Well, I apologize. That's crazy. These are, I always thought they were needles. Thank you. Never know what you can learn from a cedar tree in the wilder. Honestly, the hydration has been my biggest challenge. Like, my piss is just like dark freaking yellow. I don't understand. I thought I've been drinking enough. And I had such a bad spasm from dehydration last night that I actually pulled a muscle, like just a minor pull, but I can tell, which is, I don't think ever happened to me before. Cedar tea. Cedar tea and vitamin C. What to drink? Hey, what'll it be? I think I need the leaves of the cedar. Now I can chill by the lake with the beavers. Sip a little cedar tea in a survival situation. Yes, that's the sensation. When it hits my tummy, it's like inflation. My brain goes boom and no hesitation. I reach for the cedar tea. Put it, give it to me. Put it in my tummy. Cedar tea, 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 tea. Tomorrow morning I'm basically gonna head out of here, so I think, you know, it's been a successful trip. I managed to build a shelter, keep fire going, get some food. Sometimes it's just luck of the draw, like not seeing any rabbits, not catching more fish and having to go hungry, but definitely I would have been able to survive out here. I just got a satellite text from Tori saying that yesterday evening it was minus 27. This morning when I woke up it was minus 31. So I'm dealing with some pretty cold temperatures, not the depths of the polar vortex that we had about a week ago, but very, very cold temperatures. So I'm doing okay out here. But yeah, you know, I wish that some things went a little bit differently. I wish there was some rabbit sign in here and I got to, you know, snare a rabbit. That would have been delicious. Made a little rabbit stew. I wish I had got another lake trout. But yeah, the fact that I got anything is still pretty good. So that's it for me.
Very chilly sleep for me last night. Oh man, I don't think I really slept actually. Just cold getting through. I don't know if my sleeping bag's damp or if it was like minus 40 out, but I barely slept. Hopefully my snowmobile starts. It starts down to like minus 35, minus 36, but minus 40, I don't know if it's gonna start. Chilly bum bum, chilly willy.
Well, my machine started, which was awesome, and as soon as it turned on, the temperature came up minus 27 on the dash, which means, you know, probably about minus 35 last night. Anyways, yeah, I'm getting out of here. Freaking absolutely beautiful morning though, unreal. I'm just gonna pack up, whip myself in the toboggan, get suited up and head out. This cooler is where I put my battery in. I put a power bank in here too. Well, there we go, back on the road, a bumpy road. I didn't have a thermometer on me out there, so I checked the weather. Last night it was minus 38 with a wind chill of minus 45. So that explains why I was freezing my ass off. Minus 38, wow.